Sarah, so walk us through it, Sarah. What's going on with interest rates?
Yeah, sure. So basically, what's happening, like everyone saw this huge, like we knew interest rates were going to increase this year. But I think what shocked everyone was the level and the quickness that those increases happened. They're already above what we were thinking like that max would be for this year. And one of the big things that had happened is that in January, the December Fed minutes came out. And I think it was a shock to the majority that doesn't track this type of thing, what the balance sheet was and the talks of the balance sheets during the Fed, meeting in December. And I don't think people realize that we're $8.8 trillion in debt, and 8.3 trillion of that is from buying mortgage-backed securities and bonds. And so that was the buying to help keep rates low, to help keep us out of a depression and all of those things when all this started happening. So the conversations that the Fed actually had in the detail of the Fed minutes of what they're planning and doing and kind of the escalation talks to try to get out of the inflation issue, I think scared a lot of people and it heightened the response. Bonds don't like inflation. Inflation is a lot worse. The Fed basically put off handling the inflation issue. They kept calling it transitory, which is very familiar to the issue we had back in the 70s. And so now that they're addressing it, what came up was, we all knew they were going to taper, but now they're tapering more quickly. So originally we thought that would finish up in June. Now it's going to finish up in March, which means that the Fed is buying less of the mortgage-backed securities to keep rates low. And then that prevented, because they were buying those back, nothing was running off their balance sheet to get that debt down. So they have to get that down to help combat inflation, which also means the Fed rate needs to go up. They need to increase that federal fund rate. They came out saying they're not going to do that until tapering's done. So now tapering's going to happen more quickly in March. Now they're talking about raising the Fed fund rate probably in March instead of June, which was the original thought. And so all these things are happening a lot more quickly to help combat inflation. And it was basically a worse situation than everyone thought it was. And the news grabbed hold of it when those minutes came out, and it just kind of escalated from there.
So what are today's rates?
Sure. So I actually pulled end of day pricing on a primary residence so let's say 20% down primary purchase, 600,000. So today you're probably looking somewhere between a 3.875 or a 3.99% for a primary resident purchase.
I'm sorry, say that again.
3.99, 3.875 to 3.99 for a primary resident purchase with 20% down.
That's back to January 2020.
So we're back into end of 19, January, 20 or beginning of 2020. Well, I would say 2019, to be honest with you. I would say that 2020 was actually even better because it started decreasing before everything happened. But if we were looking at in comparison, right? So I went ahead. Those all have points. I'm talking about no points.
I get you.
You got to explain that. You got to explain the no
Sorry,
points.
sorry.
I saw this girl on Instagram talking about how blah, 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 blah. This person said, and I'm like, girl, you aren't even telling people and I finally saw people in the comments, are you talking about points or not? And I'm like, yeah. All right.
Sorry, that advertisement
ahead.
or that video on Instagram makes me so mad. And it's funny because people other LOs finally started putting on there, can we report this? But anyway, so basically those are the points I'm giving you the rates that I just put out there are with no points, which means you are not paying money for that rate. When you go on to a lot of online lenders and really tiny print, it will have this is with paying 1 point, which is basically a percentage of your loan amount. So it's paying money to get that lower rate. So basically I'm giving you what that rate will be without you paying points to get a lower rate. You can still do that. But this is just par pricing, which means no cost to you, the borrower. So I went ahead and did comparison for like, let's say fourth quarter of 2021, we're kind of looking at 2.99%. So if we're doing a $600,000 home with 20%
Sorry,
down,
when was 2.99?
it was let's say November of
Okay.
2021. Okay.
So I put up right here 3.25 just to make a comparison. So you're saying 2.99 was
Yeah.
in December. Okay. So I use this. I don't know if anybody else uses this, but I use mortgage calculator. Any time I have a client like asking questions about mortgages, this is just like a really quick, easy tool. So mortgagecalculator.org. But I like this because you can put in the property tax. So anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So basically, I'm just going to go over the principal and interest. I'm not going to put escrows in there because taxes, homeowners insurance, all that is going to differ. So I'm just going to keep it easy with the P&I, which is the principal and interest payment. So for 20% down on a $600,000 home, when things were at 2.99, your principal and interest payment would be $2,021. Okay.
So you're looking at, so I just did quick math on here. Okay. So I just to make it easy and visual. So if you're at 2.99 versus 3.89 right now, 20% down, everything the same, you're looking at a difference of about almost $300 difference in your payment. 289.7. This is just based off some easy math here. $50 HOA, $10,000 a year for property taxes. So you're talking just because they've gone up a whole point, you're looking at about $300,000 or $300 difference. But here's the crazy part: the percent down changes quite a bit too. No, it stays the same, but it doesn't get you as much.
So the percent down for certain home prices will change the rate significantly, especially on investment. And I can get into that later. Like, honestly, if you're buying an investment property right now, you don't want to put down anything less than 25%, just because there's pretty much like a half point difference in rate in most areas.
Thanks for watching this short of the Real Amigos podcast. For more live streams, hit here. For more clips, hit here. We'll catch you on the next one.